What's up, everybody? It's waba, and I just wanted to do like a little TLDR of the balance manifesto that we saw recently for patch 3.5 Betrayal League. So let's just go ahead and go through it. So what does the balance manifesto mean? This is just to my understanding. Feel free to expand in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about it. Some of it's pretty interesting. Some of it is kind of okay, so that's a thing. The controversy around stat sticks has been addressed. Sort of. This is personally the change that I wanted, as I really didn't want the expected nerfs to stat sticks to affect spellcasters. But just to simplify it, you can now only use skills with the weapons the skills have listed. For example, you cannot use a claw in your offhand. If you use cleave, you instead must use either an axe or a sword. I'm not looking at the tooltip, but I'm pretty sure that's what the tooltip does say. Furthermore, all skills that use the main hand weapon will now use both weapons when dual wielding. Sunder is an example of this. Sunder would use the main hand even if you had two weapons, but now it's just going to use both. An interesting side note about this, though, is that weapon swapping may become more popular due to skill binds being tied to specific weapon sets now. Hashtag this is sort of a buff ? Specifically to weapon swapping. Eldritch Battery got a much needed change. All praise to the creators who may be called out for a change to Eldritch Battery in the past. Energy Shield recharge is no longer interrupted when spending life, blood magic, or energy shield, Eldritch Battery. This means that if you are a caster and you take Eldritch Battery without Mind Over Matter, you'll essentially be regenerating energy shield constantly, albeit with a 50% less regen penalty. Also, to accommodate this, more flat ES is being added to the passive tree in certain areas. So maybe in this change, CI and low life builds got a little bit of a bump in ES. A cap on slowing effects of 75% has been implemented. I do not understand this in its totality because I have not really played any builds that maximize this, but this man does. So
this does absolutely nothing for the people who randomly slap in temp chains in the shackles of the wretched to get some duration on their headhunter buffs. Unless they are terrible at wording. Oh yeah, okay, sure, that could be, but doesn't based on this wording, it doesn't really make any sense.
There we go. The gist of the upcoming unique rebalance is that the very rare items are getting buffed, while some are becoming more common. That's kind of the same thing. It's just two sides of it. Uniques from bosses are being balanced upward if they're not up to par. Voidwalkers. And items that dominate gear slots, such as like Headhunter or Tombfist, may be receiving some balance changes. To quote GG exactly on that last part, unique items that dramatically affected diversity in an item slot would be addressed either by nerfing excessive power or by looking at what else was available in that item slot. It's an ongoing process, but when the patch notes hit, just make sure to Control F and look for any items you may be curious about or be worried about. So the cast on crit changes. Mostly this section just seems like an explanation to the recent cast on crit changes due to the power level of uniques that enable the cast on mechanics. It also does mention that other trigger items are having their cooldowns reduced. Because of this, I do not really expect to see a substantial nerf to Poet's Pens, but instead just a change to other things like maybe Cosprey's Malice or Mjolnir. GGG talks a little bit more about character archetypes and the design process. This includes the recent changes to cold damage over time style builds, totem and brand archetypes, specifically with Hierophant, and the new banner and impale mechanics as it relates to the champion ascendancy. The biggest takeaway from this for me was the Ritual of Awakening in Hierophant no longer grants one additional totem, but instead allows the user to place two totems at once and get 3% more damage per totem. This slightly changes the dynamics of the totem playstyle, and I think for the better. So it's a good time to consider what other skills we could potentially use with totems. Finally, self-casting has been addressed. The community is so happy to hear that it was not a point of focus for patch 3.5. I don't know how effective of a TLDR this really was, but there it is. If you guys have any comments or questions, put them down below. Talk about whatever you'd like, and I will see you later.